Hello people, I'm going to teach you how to use the offset tool in Photoshop, which is really useful to create seamlessly repeating patterns. That's a tile that when joined together with a reproduction of itself joins up seamlessly. There's three things that you need to remember, which are that the offset tool can only be used on one layer at a time, which does affect how you kind of go about arranging your pattern because of all the different motifs when you merge them and when you don't, sort of thing. But you will generally learn that as you practice. And the next thing to realise is that your document needs to be an even number of pixels wide and an even number of pixels high. So this one's 3000 by 3000. That's because you need to divide it in half later, and you don't want any 0.5 of anything floating around anywhere. So an even number. It doesn't mean it has to be square. You can have a rectangular document, but your canvas size needs to be an even number. So as I say, this is 3000 by 3000 pixels, and obviously you go up to image and image size to have a look and see what that is. Don't worry about the centimeters at the moment, just stick to the pixels. If you were working on a document and you said, oh, let's see if we can offset it, you might need to change your canvas size, in which case you can go to canvas size and pixels and fiddle around here. You might need to add a pixel here and there, which would be fine to do as long as there's no important motifs overlapping on any edges. So keep everything in the middle when you're planning to do an offset on your layer. Right, so I'll just demonstrate to you with something really simple. I'll take these away and I'll get my Wacom pen out, which is of course great for doing a bit more detailed work. You can do what I'm about to do with just your mouse, but I think you'll find it very annoying. So if we draw a wiggly stripe, perhaps I'll draw a slightly thicker line, and so you can see better. And we want this edge here to join up with this edge here. So how are we going to do that? Right, well, these two are both on one layer. So we want to have what's on the edge come into the middle. So we do that by going to filter, and there's the offset tool. If you click the one right at the top of the menu, it will just go to the last setting. So don't do that. Go to other, and then down at the bottom is offset. And we ignore the settings that come up immediately because that's going to slightly throw you. We know that our document is 3000 pixels along by 3000 pixels down, so half of that is what you're interested in, which is 1500. Let's not do the vertical now, we'll keep that at 0, so that means that wherever you drew your stripes on the vertical, it'll stay on the vertical. And we've moved horizontally. Don't worry about the plus sign that comes up there, just ignore that. 1500 is the right amount, so it's brought those edges into the middle, and as you can see they don't join up. So this is where we can get our eraser tool, and everything's on the same layer, so that's fine. We'll just neaten it up a bit and we'll get our brush out. Of course, now I have to remember what brush size. Perhaps I just want to join it like that, then back down to here to get the same brush again, etc. I'm not going to be too finicky with it now, but basically you've now joined it up. You can now offset that again to have your edges, your middle back into the edges, and you can offset it again, same settings, and great. So now basically that is a repeating tile, because if you lined this up, this edge would line up with that edge. So how do you do it with more complicated and more of the motifs that you might want to arrange as patterns? So let's go back to here. I've made these earlier, and these are all motifs that are on their own layer, so they're individually movable. And the really important thing to know, which none of the other offset tutorials seem to say, which I can't quite understand because it's so crucial, is don't have any stray pixels floating around off the canvas, because if you've brought this in from another document and you maybe deleted all the background because you wanted this motif only, you might have forgotten to delete some white pixels or any colour pixels, and or maybe even another whole flower or something, and Photoshop will remember and have it off the canvas. And you can tell by going to Command, I'm on a Mac by the way, Command T, and we know that it will select the whole layer, and you'll know if it's sort of like that, you know, like that, you've got some space down here that is off the canvas, and you don't want that because that's going to completely throw your maths out and really make you confused. So the way to get around that is don't worry about checking every single layer. When you have your motifs organized how you want them, you can just use the crop tool. You can see that it's come up with these handles around the edge, so you know you can crop like this, but you don't want to do that because you want to keep your document at the pixel size that you first started with, and you just press return. And that will make sure that anything on any layer that's outside the canvas is going to be cut off, and that will therefore not screw up your maths. Good. So now we need to create a duplicate copy of my motifs, because I'm going to need at least 2 copies of them. And then I'm going to close the original one down because I like to just keep that as a backup, and go back into my first copy, and I'm going to merge them because remember you can only apply the offset tool to one layer. So we're going to press Command and E. Now we've got them all on one layer, and they're all in the middle, none of them are overlapping the edges, and we want to go to Filter. Let's just check what we're doing. Yes, Filter Offset, and it's sorry, it's slightly confusing there because I've got 2 visible, so I'm going to hide my other copy. Yeah. And I'm going to do that again. Filter, Other, Offset. And it's not doing anything on the vertical for now. You might want to see what it looks like. In fact, let's do that for now as well. So we're doing vertical and horizontal. So everything that was in the middle has gone to the corners. And that's great because we now know that this side lines up with this side, and this side here down at the bottom here lines up with that side there. So we've kind of sorted our edges out, apart from if we want to fill this bit later, but that's okay, we'll come to that. Now we go to our copy motifs, which are in another folder which we prepared earlier, and there they are. So again, they're individually movable around at the moment. Remember, I don't want to overlap any edges because that will create some problems because it's not duplicated over here. And you can rearrange them and play with them. Maybe you can fiddle with the blend tools. Let's see what happens there. Let's just keep everything on normal for now, but the blend tools take up hours of my time of playing with them. Remember, we can only do it on one layer, so we're going to merge all those, Command E. And now we've got 2 layers, those ones and those ones. And good, we're happy with that. So we're going to press Command, select both of those, Command E to merge them. Now we have everything on one layer. And basically that is your repeating tile. So you can save that as a JPEG and muck around with it from there. And this space, because we haven't got a background on this repeating tile, will always be transparent, so wherever you're using it you can sort of fiddle around with backgrounds later, or you could have it in your pattern immediately, up to you, but save it as a JPEG and then you'll have a copy of your tile. If you wanted to fill in these white spaces with more flowers, you need to make another copy of your original motifs, so Control duplicate, let's get them out of the originals folder, and now we've got some more to fiddle around with, so we're going to just hide them and play around with say 1, but we can't really see what's going on. We need to offset again, so we've got everything on that layer, this layer, and we're going to offset it, but this time I think we'll find that we might need to play with the sliders of the offset, because the same has happened again. It's such a great repeating tile that the whites have just gone swapped over. So we're interested in fiddling around so we get the white areas into the middle so that we can, yeah, I think we'll have to do them both separately. There we are. So we've got that nice white space now, so we can switch on. Here's the next flower. Perhaps we want to make it a bit smaller, like that. And then we want this white space in the middle, so we're going to merge our new flower with our old main layer, Command E, and let us offset it again. This time we want to fiddle with the slider, so we're going to go here. Yeah, get that in the middle, that's fine, just fiddle with it. Basically, you want to start off using your half the pixels of your document's width and height, but once you get to this stage, I think you can pretty much fiddle with the sliders and it seems to be okay. So let's get another flower, put it on top of our layer. Now, if you were fiddling around with blending modes, it would be quite it gets more complicated then, but we're not. Now look here, this flower is going off the screen, off the canvas here, and that would cause problems for our offset if we didn't notice that. At the moment, we could either crop the whole document or we can just make that smaller, and since I want to make it smaller anyway, that's not really a problem. Good. Okay, we've got a bit of white space here, but that's okay. Let's remember to merge everything, and you can always really keep copies of all the layers if you think you're going to need to come back to them and rejiggle them, because it's the rejiggling around of your motifs that's so easy in Illustrator and so difficult in Photoshop. Once you've committed to merging it and creating this pattern that's quite complicated, it's a nightmare to have to go and re-find all the motifs and rearrange them. But anyway, you'll work out your own workflow. So basically, I don't think I need those two other flowers, so I've got everything on one layer and I'm very happy. So let's just go to the offset again and put in 1,500 and 1,500. Yeah, it seems to be repeating quite nicely. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go for this if I was doing this properly, but it's at least repeating very nicely. Now, the cool thing about Photoshop, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can go to Edit, Define Pattern, and it goes, hey, I'm making this into a pattern and I'm going to remember it for you across all my documents without you having to save it as a pattern like you do in Illustrator in order for it to open in a new document. So let's go to open a new document. Sorry about that. Let's make one that's bigger than our document that we created the original pattern in. 4,000 by 4,000 this one is, and I'm going down here, I'll create a new layer, and I'm going to go to this little half circle, half dark, half light circle, and fill it in with a pattern. And it just fills in with the last pattern that you created, and we can see, we can move it around, we can rearrange it, we can play with the scale, which is fantastic. Of course, as you go smaller, you realise that it's quite grid-like, but that's fine. We want, say we want that. And we can also say, you know, see all the other patterns here. When you press on this arrow, it brings up all sorts of other pattern options, the previous ones you've created. So you can have all sorts of fun with that. And also I'd recommend, as I said before, saving this, saving your original tile as a JPEG, and make sure you put tile in your title, because then you'll know immediately that it's a perfectly repeating tile. So I think that is it for now, and there's plenty of other ways you can have fun, but basically if you decided you didn't like the colours of that and you wanted to change them, because this is a fill, it needs to be rasterized before you can do anything really to it. You can move it around, but you can't change the hue. So go to Layer and rasterize and layer again, and you find that you can no longer fiddle with the scale of it or move it around, but you can say, for example, Command U, muck around with the colours, and that way you can have all sorts of fun with different layers. And so there you go. I think that is the offset filter for you. I hope I remembered to tell you everything. And if you've got any other ways of repeating seamless styles in Photoshop, then do share them. Thank you. Bye.